Welcome back, everybody. This is Erica back with another Saturday podcast. I am here with Dyanna again, and we are still talking about 13 Reasons Why. We ran long in the last episode, so we are doing a second part to it. So if you are joining us for the first time, be sure to check out that first video. And if you've seen that first video, welcome back, and we will continue to talk about this show. Alright, so let's talk about some of the secondary characters for a little bit, and then we will go into theories. So first, let's talk about Skye. Skye is the girl who is the barista at Monet's, and she's also a former friend of Clay's.
And in the book, I think it was a little bit different. There was two different characters. The barista at Monet's was a former classmate who had graduated a couple years prior, and Skye was in Clay's class, and they had been friends before and kind of lost touch. But in the show, it was they had made her into one singular character, which I think was good.
I definitely think that the show benefited from having Skye be such a bigger part of the show, because her journey kind of is very reminiscent of Hannah's. They both go through similar things where, they're outcasted and they have people talking about them and without really getting to know them. Mm-hmm. And the main difference is that Skye self-harms instead of being self-destructive and then killing herself. Yeah. Which I thought was really interesting, that when Clay was talking to Skye, that she said suicide is for the weak.
You can definitely see the parallels between the two characters and how they are very similar, but just the way that they handle it, Hannah internalized it, and then that led to the self-destruction and then eventual suicide of her. And Skye, she goes through similar things, and she kind of has pretty similar reactions to it, except she's very vocal about it. She doesn't really care what people think about her. I mean, obviously it does, it did affect her in the past, but she's at a point now where she just is kind of people are going to say what they're going to say, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what works for me. And she does self-harm, but in that way you kind of see how she deals with all of the drama and stuff from high school, and she does it in a way where she causes pain to herself. I think to feel something to make life real, but not in a way where she actually wants to take her life. And that's the biggest difference, is that she doesn't give up. She keeps fighting through.
No, I don't know if they necessarily ever interacted, but I think Hannah could have benefited from having Skye as a friend, being you know what, knock it off.
I'm going through the same shit.
I know you're hurting, but this is not how we deal with things. Suicide isn't an option. You need to talk to me. We'll get through this together, kind of thing. And I think it was really tragic that they never got a chance to interact that way, because I think that could have helped Hannah a lot. Be that one friend who
could have snapped her out of it.
Yeah, who understands what she's going through.
Really understands everything. But I think in the show they kind of say how they knew who each other were, but they didn't talk to each other at all. And Skye kind of says oh, she ignored me, which, I mean, it could have been that. They were kind of they were part of different social scenes. Skye was kind of a self-made outcast, and Hannah was trying to be social and popular and all this stuff. But I think with Hannah, Clay kind of learned his lesson in picking up on signs that someone is having a hard time and maybe they need a friend. So I did at the end of the series how he goes up to her again and he's hey, let's hang out. He learns from his mistakes previously, and he kind of wants to do right by Hannah and also do right by Skye and make up for anything that he may have unintentionally did to hurt them.
Yeah. And I do appreciate that Clay recognizes that and puts forth more effort, uses Hannah as an example, as in what not to do. No, you need to tell people how you feel, and you need to
listen and be there for people who you see
are. Be a friend. If you're really someone's friend, you need to be there for them and ask them, hey, what's going on?
Ask them the hard questions.
Yeah.
I do think it was interesting how she also was into tarot card reading stuff too, and that was kind of a way that her and Clay really kind of connected deeper. I mean, obviously it was a very tense moment because he thought that she was kind of personally attacking him, but but I do think that was a pretty interesting thing to add and to kind of develop their storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they gave her, like you said, gave her more of a backstory, so that was nice too, just to be able to know the characters better.
Mm-hmm. All right. So there's also Tony, which we kind of talked about in the last episode, how he was given more of a backstory. Did you like how involved he was with the tapes, as opposed to being a fly on the wall in the book, where he kind of just, made sure that they knew he made sure that everyone else passed on the tapes, but he didn't get involved until Clay.
Well, I did reread the book pretty recently, and he did kind of a little bit get involved in it, but not so much like as he did with Clay. He kind of took a special interest in Clay, but in the book he was telling Clay how he kind of went up to each person who he knew was on the tapes and kind of asked them a question to kind of see their reaction, to see if they had gotten the tapes yet or if they had like sent it on. So he did have like that little bit of interaction, but like you said, it was still a fly on the wall. In the show, I don't know, I've almost felt like he was
a little
like
too pushy.
Yeah, he put himself a little bit too much in Clay's life. Like, I understand, like, he wants to make sure that he's listening to the tapes and he's taking a lot longer, so he kind of gets a little bit concerned. But he has to understand that it's hard for all of them listening to it, but especially Clay, because he knows that Clay really wasn't meant to be on the tapes. He just needed to be there for the story. So I think now he kind of probably could have been like a better friend to him, and instead of just listen to the tapes,
Yeah.
he probably could have given him. I mean, Clay was kind of killing me. It's like, oh my god, dude, just listen to the tapes.
But it's hard. It's like, no, sit down, listen to it.
Shut up and listen. Yeah. So I mean, he did need to be told like to listen to the tapes, but Tony kind of put himself in all those situations, kind of like asked Clay to keep talking to him, and it's like, just keep an eye on him, but let him do his thing, let him get through it in his own time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of didn't like that, but I did like that they gave Tony more of a storyline, and also they showed his connection to Hannah.
Yeah, because before he didn't really have that. He was kind of just like some random third party that she chose. Like, I think
they were friendly.
They were friendly, but the only reason why she really chose him to have the tapes was because he gave her the equipment to be able to record them. So he was the only person who knew that she had recorded something.
Yeah.
So that's why she chose him. But in the show, giving them a deeper connection where they're actually like friends.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they didn't show their friendship, but there was like the little moments where she would be like, and he has an awesome car or whatever, and he's like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And they give each other a high five. So I mean, you do know that they were friends, or at least school friends.
Yeah, it was an implied friendship.
And it wasn't just like out of the blue, like, oh hey, here's this random guy who has the tapes, and he's gonna honor her though, even though he doesn't know her.
Yeah. What did you think of Tony giving Hannah's parents? He didn't give them the tapes, but
a copy, like
the
on
copy,
a USB.
like the MP3 of the tapes. How did you feel about that? Like, do you think that was a good choice?
I do, just because of all of the reasons that Hannah gave for like her killing herself. It was bigger than her. It was bigger than just her story. It was like there was crimes being committed, and I do like that he came forward, like not to the police or not to like lawyers or anything, but he did go to the parents and it's like, here, you need to listen to this. This is like your daughter's note, which is like a hard thing for like any parent to like have to listen to, but they do kind of deserve that, like a reason why,
Yeah,
And so he was kind of doing right by Hannah, like honoring her, but not in a way that she had asked, but kind of fighting her battle after she couldn't.
Yeah, like they definitely deserve to know, which is one thing that frustrated me in the book, is that Hannah's parents never got an explanation about what she was going through. And I do think, though, that like they needed to know like everything that went on, which kind of brings me into my next point about the lawsuit. At first, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about that addition to the story, about how Hannah's parents, like suing the school for like negligence. But in this day and age with, bullying and especially cyberbullying, it is really important that these issues are addressed. And I think with in the present day, a lawsuit like that would bring a lot of media attention, which is important so that way situations like this don't happen. And that with them knowing Hannah's reasons and what happened to her and how she was bullied and how nobody was standing up for her, that they needed to know the reasons, and they needed that to be able to win their lawsuit.
Yeah.
And hopefully it can help somebody in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the whole point of their whole lawsuit. And I did like that they brought in the characters of Hannah's parents, because you kind of know that they're there during the book, but you don't see them, you don't hear about them. And so I really did like that, and you kind of felt like the aftershocks of Hannah's suicide through them, obviously through the 13 reasons, like the characters, and then their like friends and stuff, but you do really feel the impact that it had through her parents and how just like devastated and heartbroken they were. And so it kind of just brought like an added depth to the show that I think was almost a little bit missing from the book.
Yeah, because in the book, I talked about this in the last episode a little bit, but Hannah didn't have a funeral. Mm-hmm. Her parents closed the store, they moved, and they had a funeral in their hometown. So Hannah's, her big plot was like, I'm going to tell everybody what they did to me. I'm going to make them suffer, and then I'm going to make them sit through my funeral. And in the book, she didn't get that. She didn't get that last, bit of revenge, which I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel about that, because after death, there's nothing, and even though that's what she wanted, she didn't get that. Mm-hmm. Because, she's dead, and she can't control, other factors. But yeah, since Hannah didn't get her funeral, she didn't get that satisfaction, which, she's dead. She won't know if it happened. With expanding these characters and making them more dynamic, having her have a funeral and then having them, face what they did head on, I think that I'm conflicted, but I do think it was probably the better choice.
Yeah, and kind of on the same note of Tony giving a copy of the tapes in the MP3 format to the parents, I did like that they added that Clay found his copy of the magazine that Ryan had published with Hannah's poem in it, and he gave that to them as also kind of fighting her battle for her, mm-hmm. By giving them another insight into their daughter's life and what was going on with her, and also giving them a piece of evidence that they could use to win their case, to get their message across that this is an important issue and it needs light needs to be shed on it.
Yeah.
So I guess this isn't really a theory, it's more of just an observation, but I like that they also added the addition of Clay falling and crashing his bike and getting the cut on his forehead, because it acted as a talisman to kind of give you a point in time by with the flashbacks, and this is present day. You can kind of see that with the style of how things look warmer, when they flash back to when she's alive, and then afterwards when she's dead it's cooler tones and it looks kind of dark. But I did like that they added his head injury to kind of say he was remembering that, and this is
a signal hey, this is present day.
Yeah.
I didn't actually really pay attention to that. Good observation. But yeah, let's on that note, let's go into theories. So the biggest one that I think we need to talk about is, will there be a season 2?
I think just based on the popularity and the feedback that they're getting from it, I think that there will be one, because it's been so huge and it's resonated with so many people and it's gotten such great feedback that I think if they wanted to, they could easily do it, and I think Netflix might actually try to pursue it. And they definitely did leave it open-ended, so I kind of hope that there is, just because I feel the story isn't done. For Hannah, Hannah's story is pretty much done, for her personal journey. She might come in in later points and affect the characters, but there's a bunch of other things, where did Justin go, and Tyler, and stuff like that. So I think there might be a season 2. I'm kind of interested to see if they do want to pursue that. And I assume that Jay Asher is going to be a part of that, just because he was a part of the first one. So if they do it, I think it would be pretty good.
I do think they have enough material, because they left the lawsuit open-ended. You don't know what's going to happen with that. And then there's all these characters that are left with such big question marks on what happens to them, that people want to know. That I think they'd be stupid not to continue it.
Oh yeah.
And anything that Jay Asher contributes to it is going to be canon, because he's involved. Absolutely. He is the story creator, so it's going to become canon into the story.
Just like with J.K. Rowling in the Harry Potter universe, how she created other books after the fact, but they're still the story, because
just because the book ends doesn't mean the story's over.
Yeah.
So the biggest one that's left open-ended is Alex. We are told that Alex shoots himself in the head, and that they don't say he's dead, but they said he's like
in critical condition. And yeah, I think that's
so. I mean, there's definitely signs that he's suicidal. He cleans his room. He quits jazz band. I believe he gets rid of some of his stuff too.
Yeah, and then there's like the whole thing in whose episode is it? I don't remember whose story it is, or which tape, but there's a scene where they're all at Bryson hanging out and they're playing video games, and he gets up and leaves, and he lets himself fall into a pool, and he doesn't try to like swim at all, so he like almost, like, it seems like he almost wants to like kill himself, like drown himself in that moment, and then he like decides against it, and then you kind of like see him like floating in the pool, and it's kind of eerily similar to Hannah in the bathtub, and then the whole cleaning the closet thing too. It was similar to Hannah cleaning her room right before she killed herself. So I mean, if he did shoot himself, all the signs were there, and I do believe that he could have. But the way that they do it with Tyler, it kind of makes it seem like maybe it wasn't an accident, or not an accident, maybe it wasn't suicide.
That Tyler has something to do with it, because they did bring Tyler in. And after his deposition, they showed him in his room with a bunch of guns, like, in his trunk.
Yeah.
And so, then, with the pictures, that it seems like he has a hit list. He has his own list. And then maybe he's taking him down one by one.
Yeah, and, like, they take him down. They show Tyler taking down Alex's photo, like crossing him off a list, almost. My personal opinion, I think that Alex did shoot himself, and that Tyler wasn't crossing him off his list when he pulled down his photo. I think he was changing his mind and being, like, this isn't someone that I want to get revenge on. Like, he's not a friend of mine. He's not necessarily a good person to me, but he also didn't warrant.
He didn't, like, wrong him
enough.
Yeah. Because, like, in the flashback where Alex tells Montgomery to leave Tyler alone, it's, like, just enough for Tyler to take him off the list and be like, you know what, you didn't wrong me.
Like he's enough. Not a good friend, but he also wasn't going to let someone unjustly, like, cruel to him, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely could see it going both ways. The other theory that I see of is that Justin shot Alex. Because when Justin's packing a bag, he packs a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really see
what happens
after that. Justin just leaves.
Yeah.
So that's one theory that I've seen, is that Justin shoots Alex. So, I mean, I could see it being a thing. I don't think that Justin would do that. I don't think...
Especially how messed up he got about, like, everything else. I don't think he could handle that.
If he was going to shoot anybody, it would have been Bryce, not Alex. Alex didn't do anything.
It would have either been Bryce or himself.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what some people think. I don't think it's Justin. I think he more took the gun as, like, a precaution, like, to protect himself. And that, you know, maybe he'll use it against Bryce at some point. But, I mean, I definitely want to see what happens with them. Like, I want to see where Justin goes. Like, does he just leave town? Does he stick around and do something? Does Tyler end up, you know, shooting people in the school? I mean, that's another important thing to talk about. I mean, this poor school, if Tyler ends up, like, you know, going on a rampage and shooting people, it's like, what more does the school have to deal with?
And kind of, like, back to why I believe that Alex did try to kill himself and that Tyler didn't do it, is because you do see Tyler hoarding all those guns and the ammunition, and just, well, because, like, you know, I studied criminal justice, so that was a lot of those cases that we studied, and just kind of like when someone does that, if they were going to go and, like, check names off of lists and, like, for people who had did them wrong, like, killed them, like, one by one, they wouldn't have that kind of hoard of, like, weapons and ammunition and stuff. That kind of thing, it kind of shows more that he wanted it to be, like, a mass shooting or, like, a massacre. It's like, that was all in effort so he could do it all at once and not slowly, you know?
Yeah, I could see that, like, if he took down Alex's picture because he shot him, like, that doesn't really seem to fit
It doesn't explain why he had so many guns and why he was, like, stockpiling them. So that's kind of, like, where I'm at, like, why I believe that Alex was a suicide, and Tyler, he's getting ready for something big, but he hasn't done it yet. He's still planning, which is why he, like, kind of decided to take Alex off the list.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, if they do a season 2, if they're going to focus it on Tyler or Alex or Justin, because, I mean, having Hannah as a central like focal point
would be redundant.
And like there's so much going on with all those other characters that I mean there's so much story that needs to be told still. And I do like that they had Hannah as the focal point for season 1. It's like she was like the common thread between all these people. So season 2, if they have somebody else, like if it's Alex.
Or even Jessica, maybe, because
Jessica.
Jessica could be like another type of Hannah, but like still alive and still like kind of fighting that battle of being the victim of rape and like maybe trying to do something about it instead of just letting it go.
Yeah, that's right, because at the end of this last episode, Jessica is like, it appears that she's telling her father about her rape. She sits him down and she starts talking to him, but we don't see or we don't hear what she talks to him about. That's something else that they could address. Like if that would factor into the lawsuit or if that's going to be a totally different storyline. Okay, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about was right now, since the show is blowing up, there's been a lot of social media attention on the show. You know, same thing like what we're talking about, you know, talking about the show, talking about theories. But then there's also some stuff that's troubling. So people are arguing that the show is problematic because it's glorifying suicide. Personally,
like
I don't
glamorizing it.
Yeah, I don't think that it's like making suicide, you know, glamorous or anything. I think it's really drawing attention to like the facts and that, you know, this happens. People are suffering and they need to pay attention, and suicide isn't the answer. Because, like, you know, Hannah does, you know, get, like, her, like, revenge or whatever, and she, like, I don't think she did that to hurt these people, but she did it so that they know.
More so that they're aware of their actions and that they think about what they do and what they say and how it affects people in real ways.
That hopefully that through her suicide and through her tapes that they'll change and that they'll stop doing these things to other people and they'll, like, you know, be conscious of like how they treat each other. And that's what I think her message was, not so much as in like this like ploy to get attention and to you know, get justice for herself, because you know, after death there's nothing, so she won't even see like how all this ends up.
And like a bunch of things that were being said was that, you know, oh, she's a drama queen, and they even said that in the show, like the characters call her a drama queen. And you're like, while she can be a bit dramatic in her tapes, that's not the purpose of the tapes, and that's not why she made them. And like you said, it's like the bigger issue of her wanting these people to recognize how they're treating each other and wanting everybody to recognize how they're treating each other and how that affects people. Even if they don't think it's a big deal, it might be a big deal to someone else. And like to be there for each other and just be kind, you know?
Yeah, so like...
And... Okay.
Like the controversy like behind it and stuff, like a lot of it is adults, like I would say 30 plus, that don't understand, who are so distant from high school that they don't understand
how
hard and how hard it is and how like people treat each other. And like, I mean, it's also people, like I see all these articles like about it. A lot of these are people who never went through anything like that, you know. They had their own bubble, like they were, you know, in their group and, you know, they had a good high school experience. Well, not everyone has a good high school experience. And just because the show is talking about all these really hard issues doesn't mean that more teens are going to go to suicide and be like, oh, I want to be like Hannah. They're going to be like, no, I need to talk to somebody. I need to tell somebody how I'm feeling. I need to do something before I end up like Hannah.
And I think that was one of the biggest reasons why they made her suicide scene so graphic, was to kind of say that it's not glamorous. Like, this is like a really hard and like lonely thing that she went through, and that she was at such a low point, like where she felt like she had no other option. And just like watching her slit her wrist was like one of the hardest things that I think I've ever had to see. And it was just, it kind of wanted, I think, to scare people, not in a way where it was like saying, this is bad, don't do this, but kind of like saying, this is like how it really would happen, and this is like saying, like, I don't know, you know,
it was raw.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I like that they didn't have any music. There was like barely any sound. All I heard was, you know, Hannah, like, you know, her pain,
like her physical pain, not just like her emotional, everything that she had gone through, but when she actually did the act of like slitting her wrist, like just like how much pain she was in, and then just like her going through like the process of like her dying, like you see her die, and that's just like something so crazy and like incredible to watch. And just like as a viewer, you feel like heartbroken, like you're shook after you like you see that scene, and you're just like, what the fuck did I just see? And you're just like, you have like a physical reaction, and you're just so moved by it, like where you sit in like wherever you are, and like you kind of need to pause it and take a moment because it's so impactful, and you just like you just have no words.
Yeah, like the first time I watched it, I forced myself to sit through the whole scene and not look away because like I felt like I needed to. I mean, everyone deals with their own issues. Like I'm dealing with both anxiety and depression currently, and you know I have been for the past 10 years. But watching that, it was really hard to watch. Like I knew it was fake. It wasn't real. She wasn't actually killing herself.
But this is like the reality.
It's the reality of it, and that you know people are in pain, and suicide is not the answer, and you can't let yourself get to that point. I think it's really important for people to see. It was graphic, yes, but if it can make one teen or anybody rethink their decision to kill themselves and get help, then I think it's worth it.
Yeah. And just kind of like with that whole thing, like why there was such a big controversy, another thing that I've been seeing a lot is the whole welcome to your tape trend, or the meme, yeah. And it's so stupid. It makes me so frustrated because they put it on like these shallow little insignificant things like, oh, buy me chicken nuggets. Friends like, no, welcome to your tape. It's like, are you kidding me? That's not the point. Like, each of these things, well, you don't maybe think it's like a big deal. The person who did it probably didn't think it was a big deal, but it made a big deal in someone else's life, and it shows the domino effect that one little thing can lead to.
Yeah, and then making light of the situation and making a meme out of it, that, oh, welcome to your tape, it totally just diminishes the power and the message of what Hannah was trying to do. And I think people are like, oh, it's just a joke, it's just a meme, whatever. It's just a TV show. It's like, well, yes, it's just a TV show.
And maybe it's just a joke.
But the real issues, people actually are going through these things, and you don't make light of it.
It's like, why is it so hard just to, like, take something seriously for once, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why does everything always have to be made into a joke? Like, there's, like, so many other funny, like, hilarious moments in the show where you can, like, take those kind of things, like, unhelpful Yoda. You know, you could easily make that into a meme, but why is it that you have to make the serious thing into a meme, make it into a joke? Like, let the serious thing that highlights a big issue be something that highlights a big issue. Why do you have to make it a joke? So that just really frustrated me, and I just needed to vent a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the show.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, I think it did the book justice. I was really frustrated with it at first because, you know, Clay taking forever to get to the tapes. But I think overall they kept the integrity of the message and they expanded upon it. And I really hope that it's something that people take more seriously. And yeah, it's a show. It's binge worthy. You just sit through it. I mean, it took me like a weekend because I was getting frustrated with Clay for taking so long. I don't know. I think it's important for young people to know that they're not alone and to get help. That's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And on that note, I think that's where we're gonna end this. So thanks for joining us. If you have any comments, you want to chime in, and if there's something we missed, or if you want to add to
something you don't agree with,
yeah, it's add your thoughts in the comment section below, or check us out on Twitter. I'll have links in the description. And yeah, thanks for joining us. We will see you, or actually you will not see us, but you'll hear us next week for an all-new podcast. We upload every Saturday, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter, and you have a good day.
Or something like that.